Hello and welcome to Explorers of Elsewhere's Meet the Crew series. Hi, I am DM Dan, and I am joined today with the wonderful, magnificent Meg. Hello, hello.
Hello, I'm the crew.
You are all of the crew. Um, yes, we are. We're chugging through, and this will be our fourth revealings. Um, we've had some consummate masterminds. We've had some weird and eccentric like casters. I feel something that we've been sorely missing is some raw, unbridled brute strength. So with that in mind, Meg, please, could you tell us everything we need to know about Freida?
Yes, so Freida is a wolfkin. So as Dan's previously mentioned in other episodes, which you'll have to go back and watch, the wolfkin as a sort of as a people are very passionate, very headstrong, and I thought, ooh, that would pair really quite nicely, like a bottle of Chianti, with the cutter. So yeah, Freida is a cutter who is the fighty person, and I'm definitely styling her as a sort of, a muscle mummy, answers with her fist first,
Yeah,
kind of gal.
yeah. It's not like sometimes some people will be like violence now, questions later. But I think
Yeah.
I get the idea that Frida's a bit like violence now, violence also later.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Fair, fair, fair.
Yeah. Yeah. I think personality-wise, quite dry, quite forthright. With like a little bit of like sarky undertones at times. She doesn't do very well with authority.
I mean, sounds very like a distant call from uh who you're playing in year one, Addy.
Oh, little Addie. Yeah, see, Addie was very flowery, and well, not that flowery, but Addie could be quite flowery,
Mm,
quite eager to please the people around her. Not Freida. Freida couldn't give two sausages, what anyone thinks.
sure, 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 sure. Okay, so yeah, we have this picture painted of a very kind of straightforward and aggressively to the point kind of person. Was there any inspiration or anything in particular that influenced you to create Frida as we know her?
Yeah, I think so on your recommendation actually, I got quite into watching the series Arcane on
Mm,
Netflix based
amazing
on
show.
League of Legends. So I think there's a little bit of Vi in there,
Yeah,
definitely. There's a little bit of the like, oh gosh, what's her name? The female
Sevica.
henchman. Yeah, that's the one. There's a little bit of that. I think sort of humor and personality wise, there's a little bit of like Nessa from Gavin and Stacey,
Okay,
and maybe an accent to match. I haven't quite decided yet, but I might subject the masses to
sure.
my terrible Welsh accent. Yeah, I think those, and maybe like, I don't know, I've started watching Peaky Blinders. I watched it
Yeah.
like ages and ages ago, and I don't think I ever finished the series, but I'm sort of going back through that, and sort of picking up little inspos here and there on that as well.
Amazing, amazing. Yeah, I mean, yeah, the whole that there's that scene in Arcane, isn't there, between
Mm,
Vi and Sevica, like towards
mm,
the end of the series, and just watching that. uh, Yeah, I can imagine if that's the sort of thing that
yeah,
Frida's going to be catching up, like getting herself caught up with.
yeah.
Um, yeah, that's going to
I
keep everything kind of ticking along.
Yeah, I'd say one thing to say about Frida is although she's aggressive and
Mm,
although she's very much, um, like I guess quite violent, she's not stupid. I don't
sure.
foresee her as a stupid character. I think actually she's got quite, especially when it comes to people, she can quite cut through the bullcrap a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah. I'm so excited.
Amazing. I mean, what is it in like Freida's past that's kind of led her to be the kind of person she is?
Okay, so yeah, there's a few things. So Freida sort of comes from, well, we don't really know her full history. So she was sort of dropped off at the doorstep of a church as a baby, and sort of doesn't really have much connection to her sort of previous family before that. And kind of, I guess, as a child, sort of fell into the wrong hands.
Sure.
Ended up growing up in a bit of a workhouse setting, like the Victorian workhouse settings,
Yeah.
and kind of has very much had to fight to survive her whole life, really. Sort of fell into fighting rings and things like that as a teenager in order to make coin to survive. And yeah, got involved in those sort of underworld circles at an early age in Elysia. So it's brought her up to be very, scrappy, streetwise, but not in a way that has left too much of a chip on her shoulder. It's not I'd say she's been molded by her circumstance, but she's not a victim of her circumstance.
So yeah, you mentioned sort of like the workhouses that Freida grew up with. I assume we're looking at Elysia's lesser known indentured kind of factory spaces, right?
Yeah, so Freida grew up in a place called Dustry Hill, very much known as like the industrial area of Elysia, and this is even before the eschaton and before the great bubbling. It was already known as a pretty run down, sketchy area in places. And yeah, Freida grew up in a workhouse, and if you want to get a flavour of that, like think proper Victorian Britain Oliver Twist type vibes. And yeah, essentially she was plucked from the church, put into the workhouse, overseen by this delightful gent called Caleb McNulty, and I say that with all the drippings of sarcasm, because it turns out he was quite the evangelist. So his sort of business model for his workhouse was, for every year of care that he placed on his his workers or the orphans that he picked up, they would then have to pay back a year for per year for of work and labor. So that meant that Freida in her younger childhood days would have spent a lot of time sitting in incredibly boring and incredibly preachy sermons, like evangelicized sermons, and then a lot of her teenage and later years essentially laboring on factory floors.
Yeah, that sounds rough. Yeah, I could imagine why Freida would want to get out of that, which, from as I understand it, she was about to moments before the bubble happened.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. So when I'd say Freida was in her sort of early to late teens, because the only way to really make money was to do crime, because the workhouse ain't going to pay for you. The way they see it, they're already paying your room and board, and they'd already paid for your care for sort of 14 plus years. So yeah, she sort of falls in with the fighting rings, manages to build up of quite a princely sum alongside her sort of long-term friend and confidant, really, chap called Joshua Ormond, who is genuinely quite a nice lad, even if he is a bit rough and ready around the edges. But but yeah, she manages to sort of get that wealth together, and then as soon as she's making plans to leave Elysia behind forever, boom, the world falls apart.
Yeah. It do be like that sometimes.
Yeah.
It do be like
So, you know, all she could do was just do more crime, right?
that. Okay, so now we kind of have an idea of like where she's come from over the past kind of however long. What has Freida's biggest brag been? And I bet this is going to be a big brag.
Oh. Okay, Freida's biggest brag is being the last woman standing in a pretty notorious, and you could even say infamous, bar brawl in the middle of Night Market. Not Night Market, it is Night Market, isn't it?
It's Haverley and Duskland.
I don't have any. Do you know what? Like, I'm gonna have to try and flush all of the Blades in the Dark name places out of my brain, and sort of inject them with Elysia place names. But yeah, so basically this massive bar brawl in the middle of Havenley and Duskland. Think like throwing chairs, think like, you know, sort of 50 patrons just whacking each other with whatever they could get their hands on. There's chairs over the head, there's switchblades in the ribs, and it's going on, and the city watch are called, and you know, and the church are called, and everyone's called. But there she was at the end of the night, stood there, battered and bloody, but still conscious. That is why Freida is not to be trifled with.
I see. Amazing. Well, I very much look forward to the carnage that she's going to unleash on the streets of Elysia. And if that sounds interesting to you, which hopefully it does, you should definitely make sure to catch the second campaign, Elysia Rising, which is coming up very, very soon. And the best way to do that is to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon for notifications of when we release new content, because that's going to be happening very, very frequently. We wouldn't want you to miss out. Yeah. So, thank you for watching. Thank you, Meg, for giving us a little, shining a little spotlight on Freida.
No problem at all.
And we will see you next time. Ta-ra.
Bye.
Bye.